Hey, welcome to Alternative. I'm William Cook, and I am here to talk a little bit about the albums I listened to throughout January, from my least favorite to my favorite. It's the first time I've done a video like this. You probably got to know me through a reaction video, but I was saying recently that I want to share more of the music I'm listening to and not just be strictly a reaction channel. Before I ever got into YouTube, I was writing album reviews on my Instagram, and I still like to do little written album reviews on the Instagram because I've always just had such a strong passion for sharing my thoughts on the music that I'm listening to. And ideally, I'd like to share my thoughts on all the music I'm listening to. But over the past year, since I've started getting into YouTube, fitting in time to actually write down my thoughts on the albums that I'm listening to has become a lot tougher. And I just thought, you know what, let's scrap the writing bit of it and let's just sit down in front of the camera and talk about these albums. As a reaction channel, it's all unscripted. I sit down, I listen to a song, and I share my unscripted thoughts. And if you've seen me react to songs, I think we could agree that I'm not the most critical of listeners. I'm a very emotional listener, and while I do appreciate music reviewers who can provide some good analysis on music, I'm not really that guy to analyze the music and provide a great critical analysis of these albums. I just want to sit here and talk to you like I'm talking to a friend about, hey, why do I like this album? So for this, I have no script. I don't really know exactly what I want to say about these albums, but I want to share with you the albums that I was listening to this past month. Now, with each of these albums, I said I'm going to be talking about them from my least favorite to my favorite. I rate my albums. For a while, I went without rating albums because I thought putting a number on an album was just too much of a task. I didn't like the idea of just trying to figure out a number out of 10 to put on an album. But at the end of the day, I kind of came to a realization that no, I do like to have something there to really tell me what album I like more than the other. But how can I really determine that rating, that number out of 10? And I realized the best way to do it for me is by doing a track-by-track rating. And I need to rate each track on a pretty simple scale. It's a 4-point scale, with 4 being a song that I love and a 1 being a song that I do not like, whereas a 2 is an okay song, 3 is a good song, 3.5 is a great song. So technically, it's kind of like an 8-point scale from 0.5 all the way up to 4. I rate each song on an album, I add up the ratings, divide that by the highest possible score. So for example, an album of 10 songs, the highest score it could get is 40 if each song was a perfect 4. And yeah, I rate each of the songs, and I add up those numbers and I divide that by 40, and whatever number that comes up with, that's the overall album rating. It's not perfect, but it works for me, and that's the system I'm using to determine what albums I like more than others. Now, before we dive into the albums, I have 2 EPs from January that I want to mention. And that first EP, Idle Minds, Break Apart the Sun. Idle Minds, I don't expect you've ever heard of them. I never heard of them. It was a new discovery. There was a few new discoveries for me this month. And Idle Minds, they're from Ohio, new band. This is their debut EP. Punk sound, a bit of a shoegaze aesthetic to it. These 5 songs on this EP, not one of them got a rating of below a 3. I think they are all very strong songs. Notably, Residuals and Lullaby are my 2 favorites off of this. Yeah, they have some punk roots, but a very dreamy atmosphere, very light vocals, and a great attention towards melody that is gonna keep me listening. So Idle Minds, Break Apart the Sun, I really do recommend diving into this underground group. The EP gets a rating of 8 out of 10 for me. And the other January EP for me comes from Charlotte Sands. This one just scrapes ahead of the Idle Minds EP. Love and Other Lies is the name of this release from Charlotte Sands. My first release with her. Caught on to her because she was featured on this new song with Taking Back Sunday and The Main. Loved You a Little that I just reacted to. Never had heard of her, but I saw she just put out this new EP and thought, hey, she's teaming up with Taking Back Sunday and The Main, 2 of my favorite bands. Must be an artist I'd be interested in, and oh my goodness. This is some of the best female-led modern pop-punk sound that I've ever heard. The opener, Want You Like That, is absolutely massive, and I'm just falling in love with that song more and more with each listen. And I featured Keep Me Up All Night as one of my best of the month. That song is just another spectacular showing from her. The other 5 songs on the EP, they're all good. They're all solid, though they do just feel a little more typical than those other 2. Those 2 that really stood out to me have these absolute gut-punching hit to them. And these other songs, they are good, they're catchy, but yeah, they are a little standard. The EP gets a rating of 8.2. Yes, I rate my albums, my EPs, pitchfork style with the decimal. You gotta. And you'll find I'm a pretty strict rater. My rating system does not often give me ratings of over 8 even. You're rarely ever going to see an album get over a 9, but even in that 8 to 9 range, that's pretty rare as well. I say, you know, if an album gets all 3s out of 4s, if it's full of just 3s, it's going to get a 7.5. That's an album full of good songs. So a 7.5 is your standard good album. If you're below a 7.5, yeah, there's probably a couple in there that are holding you back a little bit. But if you're above a 7.5, you're moving into very strong territory. And if you're above an 8, then we're really talking. And above a 9, it just barely ever happens with my rating system. But yeah, I told myself with this video, I really don't want to drag this out. So I'm really going to try and push through these albums as fast as I can. Share with you, like I said, just my unscripted thoughts. And I'll try not to ramble. So my least favorite album of the month of January comes from Dope Lemon. Rose Pink Cadillac. Dope Lemon is the project of Angus Stone. He's most well known for his work with his sister, Angus and Julia Stone. I caught on to him back in the early 2010s with his solo album. Yeah, Broken Brights from 2012 honestly goes down as one of my all-time favorite albums. It's just such a mood to it. Hits me with more nostalgia than most albums I can think of. The sad thing is, after Broken Brights, that was about it for his solo stuff under the name Angus Stone, and he's now moved on to Dope Lemon. It's a stoner folk, I like to call it. Psychedelia, blues, and it's just not my type of music. Rose Pink Cadillac is his 3rd album, and while it is certainly a vibe, I find it's the type of vibe that really only suits a particular situation for me. If I want to lounge in the sun, then I'm sure I could enjoy most of these songs. But there's even a couple on here like Howl With Me that I just find grating with that guitar. And the closer, Shadows in the Moonlight, just way too weird, man. It does not pull through with much that I can grab onto with a song like that. But then you have songs like Every Day is a Holiday, Rose Pink Cadillac, High Rollin', God's Machete. I really like the dark drive of that track. Those are the songs that I can feel more, I can enjoy a little bit more. We have a little bit more of a sing-along pull to some of these, and that's what I need. And I just find, I don't find too much of that sing-along catch to his stuff. It's very easy going and I appreciate that, but for the most part I do struggle to really pull the strength away from his music as Dope Lemon. I settled on a rating of 6.1. Next up we have Years and Years with the latest album Night Call. Years and Years, the London-based pop artist Ollie Alexander used to be a synth pop trio, but after their first album it pretty much just came down to Ollie Alexander. This is his 3rd album. And, you know, it's got some fun stuff to it. Starstruck, the lead single, is a blast. And other songs like Crave, 20 Minutes, Reflection, they all do something for me. I find 20 Minutes has a really nice, soft melody to it that's really grown on me. Reflection has some great wordplay to it. So there are moments that really work on this album that I really appreciate. A lot of it is just blah type of pop music that really doesn't jump off the page. Find Night Call, which sounds kind of like a Lady Gaga song, just gets a bit annoying. See You Again I put as one of my least favorites, just not a hook that has me wanted to come back to it. And notably, A Second to Midnight with Kylie Minogue, who I barely know anything from her. That song is not just doesn't do much for me, it's downright annoying. I really do not enjoy that track. settled on a 6.3 as an overall rating for the album. Now next we have Twin Atlantic with their latest album, Transparency. They're a Scottish alternative rock group. This is their 6th album, and they're pushing out a really quirky side of their sound on this album that I really enjoy. On some of these, I think it works perfectly. Songs like Young, One Man Party, and Dirty are fabulously done. Really, really strong tracks. Then we have a song like Dance Like Your Mother that is the type of song that I would rather just skip than listen through. And also the closer, Instigator, I find it's a bit lacking compared to some of the other better songs on the album. Ultimately, I'm really enjoying what they're doing with some of these songs, but the album as a whole is a little messy. I'm giving it a final rating of 6.5. And next up we have AURORA with The Gods We Can Touch, the Norwegian pop artist, electro pop. This would be her 4th album, as long as you're counting Infections of a Different Kind and Different Kind of Human as 2 different albums. The River off of A Different Kind of Human went down as, I believe, my number 3 song of 2019. That's the peak of Aurora's sound, and there's not much other music that can bring me to quite the place that song brings me to. Also, Conqueror from 2014, that's the song that got me into her. I adore that song as well. So she has shown me that she can really, really hit me where it means the most. And because of that, it's an artist I can't keep my eyes off of. But this latest album really shows me that she's not really all up my alley. I find off this latest album, Giving Into the Love is a gorgeous track that still couldn't quite push onto my top 100 of 2021. But, you know, with continued listens here after the album came out, it's grown on me enough to be considered one of my favorites from her. It's definitely the best off this album in my opinion. And I'd say the penultimate track, This Could Be a Dream, is my other favorite. Just a lovely, slower song. But there are several on this album that just do not do it for me. I find You Keep Me Crawling, Exist for Love, Exhale, Inhale, and Artemis are all very plain dull. And I just really cannot get behind them. You know, they all get ratings of, I believe, 2 for me as okay songs that, yeah, they are okay. She's got a beautiful sound. There's no denying that. It's lovely. That's not enough to make me want to play your songs again, and I just can't find much enjoyment in those types of songs. After rating each song and crunching the numbers, Aurora's The Gods We Can Touch gets a rating of 6.6. All right, we're almost out of the 6s. The final album from the month of January that didn't quite make it into the 7 territory, UNDEROATH, Voyeurist, their latest album. UNDEROATH, the Florida metalcore, post-hardcore band that's been around for ages. It's their 9th album, 6 if you don't count the 3 albums released before Spencer Chamberlain joined the band. I certainly did not listen to any of those. I joined UNDEROATH around the time when Writing on the Walls came out, and I'd say that song, along with A Boy Brushed Red and Desperate Times, Desperate Measures, would go down as my favorite from UNDEROATH. Their 2010s stuff has lost the spark that they had with their early days, and I think that remains the case with this latest album. It's got some cool stuff to it. I think the opener, Damn Excuses, hits off the album so strong and is a very, very good song. But then you got the closing song, Pneumonia, pushing into prog territory and really showing off their experimental side. Good for you guys, but while a lot of fans, I'm sure, really appreciated it, I did not. I do not enjoy a song like that. And it definitely took away from this album having a higher rating. Really not a bad album. I think it's a solid effort and a respectable effort, and I think a song like Pneumonia is very respectable, just not a song that's gonna leave much of a mark on me. And really, while these songs are pretty good, they just don't have that spark of the early UNDEROATH. I've settled on a final rating of 6.8. Okay, now we're moving into the 7 territory, starting off with Billy Talent. Billy Talent, I reacted to End of Me off of this album with Rivers Cuomo when I was saying how I did not enjoy their past 2 albums, Afraid of Heights and Dead Silence. The only 2 other albums we've had from them in the past 10 years, did not enjoy them. And a lot of fans came in saying, hey, I disagree with you. And so it's great to see that, hey, Billy Talent hasn't lost their fan base. They still got fans that have been sticking true to them and have enjoyed these past two albums, whereas myself did not like the direction they were heading. But the Ontario rock band is still pushing out stuff here in 2022, their 6th album. I adored their first 3, did not like their 4th and 5th, like I mentioned. This 6th one, you know what? I can't complain much about it. I guess you could say similarly to UNDEROATH. Lost that spark. Oh, that spark is gone. These guys are not making me feel the way they made me feel back in the 2000s. But you know what? A lot of this album does hold familiarities to stuff of their past. So I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. Oh, I'm hearing stuff that reminds me of some of the songs off of Billy Talent 2, off of Billy Talent 3. And I think they did a great job with the singles Reckless Paradise and I Beg to Differ. And while when they came out, I remember I kind of let them pass on by, and I was just like, oh yeah, Billy Talent not hitting me the same way they used to. And yeah, you're right, they're not hitting me the same way they used to. But revisiting the songs with the album, I realized, wow, these songs are actually very strong songs. I think Forgiveness is a very good song as well, and I appreciate the musical ambition in a song like Forgiveness. And overall, throughout their album, they're good songs. They are songs that don't leave me complaining about much, but again, they just don't have that same fire in them that the older stuff did for me. And I think the song Judged, that takes the cake as my least favorite. Again, hey, respect to you guys pushing out this real straight up punk song, and I get the message, but it falls flat for me. It really just falls flat. The album gets a solid 7.0. Next up, we have a new discovery for me this month, a band called Psalm, The Shape of Everything. They've been described as doom pop. This is their sophomore album. They're from Connecticut. Apparently, they're former members of Junius, Constance, and Caspian. Band names, Caspian rings a bell, but definitely bands that I've never looked into. It's heavy instrumentation, heavy guitar, crashing drums, with an overall shoegazy type of atmosphere, dreamy vocals, and a strong melodic presence. I find the song Clocks is the strongest showing of their sound, while the song Heart Attack is my least favorite side of their sound. Just a little too spread out for me and not really pulling in through with that strong melody. And that's all I want. I just need that melody that I can grab onto in a song like Heart Attack. I find while the feeling is there, the feeling's there throughout this album. They really create quite the mood with these songs. They do lose me a little bit with a song like Heart Attack. But I'd 100% recommend this band if you're looking for that dreamy rock type of sound. The album gets a rating of 7.03, just barely slipping ahead of the Billy Talent album. Now we have another new discovery in SETYOURSAILS, their album called Nightfall. This is a German melodic post-hardcore group, their sophomore album. They're female-led, which I think a lot of us would kind of instantly bring up comparisons to maybe the most popular female-led metalcore group out there today in Spirit Box. But I wouldn't really compare them to Spirit Box. I compare them more to a band like In This Moment. They're not quite as progressive or technical, I guess you could say, as Spirit Box. And their sound, I do find, is a little more generic. These songs aren't giving me anything that I haven't heard before, but I love the sound. It's a very strong sound, and I honestly don't have any least favorites off of this album. I think they are all pretty good songs, and some very good songs. My favorites come with the early chunk of the album in Ghosts, Secrets, and Mirror. I would say those are the 3 strongest songs. None of them peak into that category of hitting that number 4 rating for me, but they are all very strong. And I think what just holds them back is that they're just lacking that extra little bite for me. They're not really surprising me, but they hit. The melodies are strong. She is such a powerful vocalist and all around a really great sound, though, yeah, just a little bit familiar. But definitely a must-hear for fans of the melodic post-hardcore genre. The album gets a rating of 7.31. This next album just peaked ahead of the Set Your Sails album, DIOR. DIOR, Texas, emo rapper, pop rap, On to Better Things is the name of his sophomore album. This is my first album with the young artist, and I do love me some emo rap, and he's doing the genre proud here. I'm very impressed with a few tracks here, notably. Heavy has a great emotion to it. Obvious is just a party of a song. Absolutely love what they do with that track. Fallen, late album track, is a different side to his sound. Really opens things up with more of an acoustic backing that I find is very pleasing. And the top song, the single Let You, featured on my well, actually, I put it on my honorable mentions for my best of January, but it is a wonderful song. Within this emo rap realm, though, I'm not a rap fan. I don't listen to rap music. I'm not a big hip-hop guy. I like the emotion in emo rap. I like the gloomy lyrics and the hooks, man. I'm all about the good hooks. But there are a couple on here that I find come off a little bit trashy. I don't relate with the lyrics. I don't like the message. I don't like the feel of the songs in general. And that is Heartbreaker and the song Options. Both of those I just find are the side of this sound that doesn't really connect with me at all. But ultimately, a hell of a fun time with this latest DIOR album, and he's got my attention. I'll be keeping an eye on him. I settled on a rating of 7.32. Next up, we have the debut full-length album from UK post-hardcore band Modern Error. The album called Victim of a Modern Age. First time I've ever heard of this band. Again, another new discovery for me this month, and I am so excited about what these guys are giving us here. Their post-hardcore sound has a lot of electronic elements to it. First off, the overall aesthetic that they are pushing with the music videos and the album artwork, I love what they're doing there. And the sound comes through so strong, especially on the album's first half. I believe it's a concept record, and the opening tracks, Error of the World, A Vital Sign, and Exit Obscured, all have some massive moments to them that really leave their mark on me. They do each, though, fall shy of hitting that perfect 4 rating for me. Similarly to what I was saying earlier with Set Your Sails, the strength is there, but there's just something missing that's not allowing these songs to peak into top tier territory. Otherwise, this album is strong throughout, and just kind of a little shy of being anything really out there, really exciting and special, but there's so much promise here, and it's an album you don't want to miss, really. If you're into some heavy stuff with a lot of electronic influence, you've got to check out Modern Era, and I feel like the best is yet to come from this band. Okay, moving into my top 6 albums of the month of January. 2 of these are tied at the same rating. We're going to start with Anxious, Little Green House. Anxious, another brand new discovery for me. It's the debut album from this young group out of Connecticut, it looks like, and they have an emo rock sound, kind of this Midwest emo kind of feel, and also a bit of a hardcore punk leaning side to their sound. They are absolutely killing it with this debut album, especially with the first chunk of songs in April. Your One-Way Street, Growing Up Song, More Than a Letter, all very strong tracks. For me with these guys, and for music in general, I definitely do connect more with the lighter, more melodic side, and those songs there definitely have more of that melodic presence to them. Whereas stuff on the back half, I find, definitely brings in more of that hardcore punk-leaning sound. And yeah, songs like Let Me and Call For You, they're pretty good. They're pretty good for me, but they are a little bit too chaotic. And I do just struggle a little bit more with pulling out the real oomph from those songs and grabbing onto the melodic substance that I really need in my music. Wayne is another track that's not heavy or anything, but I find it's just a little plain and doesn't really get too much out of me. But again, still a pretty good song. And then the closing track, You When You're Gone, this one bothers me a little bit because they don't mention anything about a feature, at least on the album credits on Spotify, but it's a female-led song. For the chunk of this track, it's all female-led, and it just feels like it's not even their song. It's like, okay, guys, you've been pushing this one sound of this whole album, male vocalist, and then at the end you put in a female vocalist leading the song. Like, who is this? What are you doing? This doesn't sound like you. It feels really off. It's a decent enough song, but the melody is still just not that exciting for me enough to really make up for the fact that they've changed it up completely at the end of the album, and really I feel like it just doesn't quite fit. But despite the things that are holding it back for me, again, it's another wonderful new discovery, and I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys can do for themselves in the coming years. The album gets a solid 7.5. And yeah, this album gets the 7.5 rating as well. The Weeknd, Dawn FM. It's the 5th album from Toronto's The Weeknd, Abel Tesfaye, R&B pop star. We all know The Weeknd, and I don't typically focus on mainstream music. I'm not an R&B fan, but After Hours was the first album I spent with The Weeknd, and I honestly really enjoyed some of the stuff off that release. And this album, I might even enjoy it more. The opening stretch with Gasoline, How Do I Make You Love Me, Sacrifice, those songs are all so good. I love what he does with his vocals on the verse of Gasoline, notably. And then my favorite, which I featured on my best of the month, Less Than Zero. Just a synth pop hit right there, and so much fun, and easily one of the best songs I've heard from The Weeknd. And I think, having Jim Carrey as the narrator for this album, the overall whole atmosphere of it was wonderful, and just such a great job. It's definitely not all perfect, though. The song If You're Married with Lil Wayne, that takes the cake as my least favorite, and even that song, it's okay. It's just not a song that's gonna hold my interest. Okay, top 4 albums of the month of January. 3 of these 4 bands I had never heard of a month ago. Starting with Hollow Graves, Mid-Century Modern. This is the Toronto band's debut full-length album, and they are very underground, have less than 10,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, but the sound that they are showing here has me hoping that they are set for some bigger numbers in the future. Now, they've got this indie rock, shoegaze, post-punk sound, and some of it I found originally just to be a bit off-putting, was like, no, this ain't my type of sound. But no, my mind was changed pretty quickly, and they've really pulled through with some beautiful stuff on this album. The first 2 songs on this album sound a lot different than the third song. The third song, The Blue, that's the type of song that really has me feeling the feels of it more than those first 2. They're all catchy. Really, this whole album is catchy. I have no least favorite songs on this album. They all come through with something there for me. And The Blue, I find, has such a gracefulness to it that is super pleasant. And another favorite comes with Far Out Summer. Again, just this very sweet energy to their sound. And it's not felt throughout the entire album. There's a couple on here. They have these vocals that don't quite sound like the same guy. One that the lighter side that I definitely connect with more, and this other side that really brings in a lot of good hooks, but is just a little bit is different. Doesn't hold quite the same lightness to it as the other vocals. So I'm interested to find out more about this band and see what else they got coming for us. They are super underground, and I think this album deserves some attention. It's not the only album to fall with this rating. It got a 7.8, but I'm adding on the second decimal to make it a 7.81. It's because we actually have 2 other albums that both got the 7.8 rating, but just a little bit higher on that second decimal. First off, The Wombats with Fix Yourself, Not the World. Of all the albums that I'm talking about here, this is my favorite band. It's the 5th album from the UK alt-rock band, and I've been with them since album number 2. The Wombats are one of my favorites in the alternative rock realm, and they have given me some massive hits over the years with 1996, Jump Into the Fog, Be My Shadow, Cheetah Tongue. Like, these guys can really come through with absolutely stunning hooks, and they've proven it time and time again. They've always struggled with their albums for me, though, never being able to give me an album that has really kept me hooked from start to finish. And yeah, there's a couple of dips to this album, but I overall find it to be one of their best. Sorry to all the fans who think this album is a big drop-off, because I feel like I haven't found any positive reviews of this album, but I think they've done a great job. First off, the song If You Ever Leave, I'm Coming With You. It was on my top 100 of 2021. It made it, into my top 30? That song goes down as top tier The Wombats. It's not only one of the greatest songs I've heard from them, but just one of the most exciting songs easily of my past year, and just a song that hits me unlike most other songs hit me, you know? And when a song can kind of carve its own path in musical feeling for you, that's something special, and I just adore that song for how it makes me feel. And then fellow singles, Everyone I Love Is Going to Die, that song especially is just a massive standout with such a catch to it. Method to the Madness, the opening lead single of the album, originally was it's a slow burner with a heavy, passionate finish, and it took a bit for it to really grow on me, but it's a wonderful track. People Don't Change People, Time Does is another one of my favorites. And then the final proper song of the album, In Worry, that song was on my best of the month for January and is just another showing of how strong of a hook these guys can put together. But yeah, there are a couple of letdowns on the album, and the opener, Flip Me Upside Down, that's one of them right there. I just don't find much of the appeal in that song. I find it a little bit annoying. Similarly, Don't Poke the Bear. It's catchy, whatever, but it is so lacking any real substance to it. And it's just the type of song that you're gonna get a negative reaction from me because you got that catch, but it's annoying. It's an annoying catch. I'd rather have a song not have any catch at all than be an annoying catch to it. So that's the type of Wombats that doesn't do much for me. But really, outside of those two songs, I find the rest of this album came through really strong. Given a final rating of 7.84. Well, it looks like the UK bands are coming in strong here, as my top 3 albums of January are all from UK bands. We had the Wombats, and out my number 2 spot goes to, again, another new discovery in SPECTOR. Their album Now or Whenever. They're a UK indie rock band. It's their 3rd album. These guys, I'd compare them to the Vaccines. And the Vaccines are a much more popular group. These guys really don't have too much attention on them, and it's my first time hearing about them after all these years. But I'd say that they are making better music than the Vaccines at this point. The sound is just comforting. It reminds me kind of how I felt when I first discovered the Vaccines back in about 2011. The Vaccines have lost a lot of that feeling, whereas this band is kind of bringing that back for me, and I just love that. The single Catch You on the Way Back In is just a shining example of their sound at their best, as well as D-Roy, which I'd say is my favorite of the album. It's a bit different than Catch You on the Way Back In, where Catch You is really direct, and it would be the song I'd recommend for just like a straight up first listen, kind of like, oh, you're gonna enjoy this, whereas D-Roy, I find, takes a bit more time, but pulls through with the strongest feeling of the album. And then they have Do You Want to Drive and No One Knows Better, which just continue to show how strong this sound can be. There is one pretty big disappointment of the album, and that comes with the penultimate This Time Next Year. A slow track that I find just doesn't offer much for me. But it is so great to hear a band in 2022 giving us this sound that is so familiar to a band like the Vaccines that I remember loving back in, 10 years ago. And it's like, wow, you guys are giving me that sound that brings me back to that time, and you're making it fresh here 10 years later. And so thank you for keeping this sound alive. Whereas the Vaccines, the band that had that sound for me, they're not doing that anymore. And glad to have you, SPECTOR. So I really recommend this band. The album gets a rating of 7 point, it's another 7.8, but with that second decimal, it's a 7.87. Now my last album, my number 1 album of the month, it's another album that did not pass the 8 mark. Like I said at the beginning, it's pretty rare that an album gets more than an 8 rating for me. When an album does break into the 8 realm, it's a really good album. I'm harsh with my ratings. I don't just hand out 4s to any song. You got to be a certain type to really get that 4 from me. And these albums, wow, they can be great albums. If you're not getting 4s across the board, you're not going to get up there. You're just not going to get up into the 8, 9, 10 range. You got to be like 4s and 3.5s to be up there. This album, though, it made my number 1 of the month because it's got multiple songs that got that 4 rating on it. And it's got a bunch of 3s, but it also does have a couple in the 2 and the 2.5 range that do hold it back from breaking into the 8 ranking. The band is Palace, UK alt-rock band with their 3rd album. Again, never heard of the group. My first time coming on to them, I saw the artwork and thought I'd take a look into it, and wow, am I so happy that I dived into this band. Their latest album here, Shoals, I mentioned with SPECTOR how they kind of reminded me of early The Vaccines. Well, this band here reminds me of Local Natives. Local Natives, their album from 2013, Hummingbird, is one of my all-time favorite albums. And Local Natives, similarly to The Vaccines, their newer stuff does not hit me nearly the same way that Hummingbird hit me back in 2013. Now we got Palace here, and they're the first band. This is the first album that's really reminded me of Hummingbird by Local Natives. I find the vocals just really bring up memories of when I first discovered Local Natives and how special that was. The vocalist of this group is phenomenal, and the band just has such an elegant sound. It's the type of music that I'm just so proud to present to you. There's just such an elegance to it, a dreaminess, a peacefulness. It's light music, but the melodies come through so wonderfully. The big standouts for me come with Shame on You and Friends Forever. Friends Forever was on my best of the month, and I just adore the track. And then songs like Killer Whale and Give Me the Rain, again, are just wow type of songs that I'm so happy with. There is a least favorite on this album, and it would come with Salt. It just doesn't hold enough of that melodic power for me. It's a slow track, it's got a bit of a feeling like of a Foles song maybe, and definitely got that Local Natives feel to it as well, but I'm not crazy about the overall feel of it. But really, there's hardly anything to complain about with this album, and it's just been such a great discovery. And it takes my #1 spot of the month of January, getting a rating of 7.9. And there you have it. That's my albums of the month of January, from worst to the best. I gotta go pee, so I'm gonna wrap this up. But thank you for checking this out. I'd love a thumbs up if you liked what you saw. Hit the subscribe for more alternative content. And leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know what your favorite album of the month was. Love to chat. I'll see you next time.